deep into conversations where nothing is taboo. They believe in eating dessert before dinner and wearing the bikini. They're allergic to labels, authority, and cheap shoes. Currently, they're launching themselves through life being the good time, bold enough to take risks and inquisitively asking, what's next? They hail from New Hampshire, but they could be anywhere dressed in cute clothes. If they had to share a tombstone, it would read, Curiosity killed these cats. Your hosts, Lisa and Robin on the mic.
My denim tube sock.
Welcome to Lisa and Robin on the mic. You were listening to us on WSMN 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can watch, stream, and listen on WSMN.live. And when the announcement comes on that we could be anywhere in cute clothes, I pointed to Robin's jean outfit just in time for her to say,
My denim tube sock. Stuffed into that thing this morning. It's like,
but she looks
I need
gorgeous.
somebody to help me zip it up on the side. I had to pull it all the way down and zip it from down here, and then
Wriggle
wiggle
yourself up in there.
Got in my cardio this morning.
What's the name of our cult?
Oh gosh, what is the name of our cult? It's got to be something catchy, something sassy.
That's why I thought I'd let you name it.
I was like, well, we already have the grunge, or was it
Trenchmouth.
Trenchmouth for a
is
band.
the name of our band. And I don't think that sounds very inviting for cults.
I don't know. It feels like there's got to be something like, I feel like beachy, something about summer, some pizzazz.
Oh, I might have the right name.
All right, tell me what you got.
Rise.
Rise. I like that.
Sunrise.
Yes.
Rise up.
Yes.
And our people, our devotees can be called risers.
Right.
We could be priestesses on high.
Divas.
Divas on high. Yeah, more like divas on high, definitely.
Rise divas. Hi divas.
What would we make like so I did a deep dive onto
Sparkle farts.
or sparkle burp since I'm involved
Yes.
and I don't like the fart thing.
Yes.
Yes. I did a deep dive down some cults, and I never watched this particular show on Netflix. It's old. It's from 2018, and it's about the Rajni.
What's the name of the show?
Is
it a documentary?
Yep. Wild Country. And it's basically a guy in India who's getting kicked out of India, but he's a guru there, and he buys 100 acres or 80,000 acres or 100,000 acres, I can't remember the number, in Oregon, and is going to build this for his people. And when I say he builds it, I mean he has nothing to do with building it. He's over somewhere else. Everyone else builds it with someone else's money. So when I'm and I'm like, this is just a real estate
do
scam,
something, right?
Right. I'm like, what are we doing paying for our own real estate? This is the way to go. This is definitely the way to go.
Yes.
And so we're watching it, and
Wait, how did he get his following?
so he wrote some books, and he's
Oh, so he had a following before he was
Yes.
getting kicked out of
Yes.
India.
So what one of the neighbors who was, so they go to Oregon next to a town that has 50 people, and they're
Wow.
all naked, humping everywhere,
The
building.
the town of 50 or
yeah,
the Indians?
No, the Rajneeshis is what they're called. And the place is called Rashni Prama, I think is the name of the town. And so but they're, just free love, and
It's like a
they're a
nudist colony.
commune. Yeah, they're doing a commune, and they move next door to these people from Oregon who are like ranchers. There's a whole town of ranchers, and the reason why there's only 50 of them is they're just working the ranch,
Yeah.
right? So they have all this space for cows and horses and kinds
Oh
of
my
stuff like that.
God.
And so, of course, these people who are working hard their whole life, and ranchers don't understand rolling around naked
Right.
with a group of 500 people. They're just like, what is this nonsense? So, and then it's just, every cult seems to start out the same way, just peace and love and community and belonging and
Free love everywhere until,
it starts out like everyone's just in love and happy and, the belonging and all that. And then it turns into like a real problem
right now.
where they're trying to poison the town with salmonella, and they're plotting to kill the attorney general, the Rajneeshis.
Jeez.
And you're like, how did we go from
So much for free love. They're trying to
Peace
kill the ranchers too. Poison the
Yes, they
livestock in
not the livestock, the human beings. They would go into buffets and put salmonella. They were creating salmonella in a lab on their trailer on their land, and then they would put it on brushes inside their sleeves, and they would like touch all the food at the buffet,
Jeez.
giving everyone salmonella, and people were in multiple towns were dropping because it's not much to kill 50 people, but
But why did they want to kill them?
because
They didn't want to recruit anybody.
they didn't want to recruit anyone from the town because they knew they weren't welcomed. Right? So it starts out with we're going to create our own town, and really and when they're creating their own town, the 50 ranchers are like, well, whatever, we don't look at them, they're over there in the canyon.
Has there ever been a cult that has not gotten violent?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
That's what I
either.
mean. Like they all start out this
It's
wonderful,
'cause you're
loving, and
around
then
people for too long. You need a break.
and there's too many people,
Yes.
and you have no break from anybody.
But then when you start fighting about, like, what if you like somebody and, it's all this free love going on and Susie's over there with Joe and, Tom and Dick and Harry are, like, hating on that. So then they go and find, Patty and...
Well, I think every sex is just a way for some dudes to try to get free sex.
Yes.
That's all I think every cult is. Unless you're a cult that's stealing. But they always steal money because how are they going to...
And control. I think control, too. Like,
definitely.
you want to have... Gosh, we watched one... just bits and pieces of it I remember is, like, they had these, like, storage containers, like, on their property, and they were, like, made, like, houses out of, like, the shipping containers and stuff like that. And they was just, I don't know.
Yeah, because they're weird cheaper
It was
than
like a
houses.
story, and, like, these girls were trying to leave.
Mhm.
These 3 young girls were trying to leave. And
Never allowed to leave a cult.
Yes.
Never. Once you're in, you're
Scary.
in. And I think that's so I read about Jonestown, and this was happening around the same time as Jonestown. And I thought, wow, I don't know anything about this cult. I knew Jonestown. I knew Charles Manson and his
Yes.
family, but he used LSD. Like everyone talks about, and then I watched another series called How to Be a Cult Leader. And so it was
Oh.
telling you, you need suggestible people, you need a feeling of belonging, you need, all of the things
Yeah.
that you need. And they kept talking about how charismatic Charlie Manson was. And I thought, well, if you have enough drugs, I don't think people who are not
Well,
high
But all the books
are
that I
gonna
read,
look at
too,
him
but,
like-
But he would be charming.
He would be charming.
and stuff is what I always read. Like, he was very personable.
he had a guitar,
Yes.
singing to the ladies.
Just kind of that, when you have that energy.
Well, he went to prison and he studied all of the religious books. So he studied Eastern religion or Eastern philosophy. He studied the Buddha. He studied Jesus Christ. So he took all of his messages and said, well, this is what everyone seems to
Yeah.
flock around. I got a guitar.
Yeah.
you know.
Well, sing it.
So there's the joke that Hitler wanted to be an artist
Yes.
and, rejected from art school. Now we have World War II. I think if Charlie Manson just had a record career,
True.
those people would be alive.
True.
I think the minute they have rejection and they
What
don't know
was
how to
his
handle it.
reason for killing them anyway? They were trying to send a message.
I think I read the book Chaos by Tom O'Neill or Tim O'Neill. I apologize, Mr. O'Neill, what your first name is. And it's a tome. It's like thicker than the Bible. And he does this deep dive about the connection between the CIA and Charles Manson. So Charles Manson didn't operate independently. He had some CIA connections because the CIA wanted to see what would happen with LSD during that time, psychedelics. They were trying to see, there was a lot of things going on at that time. The
So
United
he's getting
States.
his LSD from CIA.
Yes.
God, you gotta stay away from
He
those
wanted to be
three-letter
a
words.
pimp.
Really?
Yes. So Charles
Well, I mean, I
Manson
knew-
wanted to be a pimp. He was in jail with pimps, and he thought, man, but he could never get more than 2 girls to give him $2. Like, go out and work $2. So, and that's another thing I think is so funny is, it's always because the way the narrator states it on the show, not in the book. On the show, they say, "Oh, he just really wants to be a pimp. He wants to put his ladies out to work for him." And it's like, isn't that everybody?
Right.
Just put the ladies out to work.
Right. Spit them out.
Just put them out.
Work for me.
Go have sex with someone else, and then bring me back the money. And I always think, well, there has to be drugs and desperation involved in that
Yeah.
because Why would I give you the money if I'm doing all the work? And this is the work I'm doing.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I just be?
Well, because I think that you take people that have had some kind of trauma that they can't get over. And I also think like occult leaders need to control,
And
influence people.
I also think they want to be important.
Yes.
Like the Davidians.
Yes.
Davidian, David Koresh thought he was Jesus Christ,
Yes.
the next Jesus Christ. And what did he have? He had guys and girls and kids surrounding him in a compound, and his rule, and you make up the rules as the cult leader, which who doesn't like that? I'm going to have sex with all your wives.
Yes.
Because I get bored real easy. So I'm just not going to have sex with these ladies. I'm going to have sex with all your ladies too. And then they do their thing. And, you know, and then these guys go for it.
Yeah,
That's the part I find. And maybe because they're also allowed some type of, you know, now if you're having sex with so-and-so, you know, Joe's wife, now Joe gets to go and have sex with someone else in the compound.
If you got Patty on Tuesday, like, can I have
I've got a free
Can I
Tuesday.
get Betty?
Yeah, I'm free on Tuesdays, you know. But I always think it's just, you know, I think that's one of the things my parents must have thought that I would be susceptible to because I was susceptible to flattery, you know.
Yeah.
So my dad did tell me, like, be careful, boys will just tell. So that kept me, you know, I'm not going to believe everything you say.
Yes.
But I think they thought I would just be really susceptible and in the van. If there's cats and books, you can put me in a van. Like, oh, look at this gaggle of kittens, and we have some books in here. I'd be like, where? Here I'm going out
I'm on my way.
I'm going out to the ranch.
A puppy
Are there
too.
Yeah,
Puppies.
of course, puppies. Are there horses on this ranch? There are. Get in the van.
Designer clothes, some cute outfits. It'd be really,
So
really
I wonder,
tempting. Cash.
do you think we're all susceptible to cults of one kind or another, or do you think everything's a cult, or nothing's a cult?
Well, when you talk about that, I've thought about. Well, I don't want to get offensive, but
We love to be offensive.
well, but I was just.
I
thinking,
think that's going to get our
But I was
algorithm up.
thinking like Amish.
We're going to have to start saying some nasty stuff in here because the algorithm just ignores us with our peace, love, and
Yes, but you think
be
about
happy.
like Amish, like they're very tight culture. Mormons have a very tight knit culture, and it's all it all comes back from, their belief system originated from a guy. I mean, most of them came up like, the Roman Catholic Church. Way back then, all these, old fogies are sitting around being like, oh, I think this is a good idea. This is going to help keep you in,
line.
in line. We'll keep you in where we need you to be.
Yeah.
But it's so... it is, because look at all the religions, look at all cultures, groups. They all find that commonality. And a lot of those commonalities, like to be influenced, be like, yeah, it's okay to have, 7 wives. Reality is,
And I think
you might just want to have sex with 7 people, but do you really want to have 7 wives?
Right, you want 7 women disappointed in you?
Right.
Telling you you're not
Nagging you all the time?
telling you
like,
to take
man,
up the
she wants you to hang a picture, and this one wants you to... you can't even have a full-time job if you've got 7 wives.
But that's the thing about those communities. So
She's
I
doing
read
those honeydew lists.
right. I read some book, and it kind of went into the Mormon society. And one of the things about having all the wives is, it's great for the older guys who have money because they have 100 wives. But they also don't have the responsibility to all these women because what they consider themselves is seed donation.
Oh.
They think they're the stallion on the top, and they're just doing seed donation. And the women are in charge of being wives to the other women because he's got... And so I think...
I mean, I do agree
And
that
then there's the
everybody should
young
have
men.
a wife. Like,
Right.
I mean, I could use a wife.
we could all use a
Because I
wife.
just noticed, I had some pink stuff on my jacket back
She should
there,
take
and I
that
was
stain out.
like, what? Just go, can you take care of that? Can you do the dishes? Can you
Make
make
me
dinner
something
tonight? Because
yeah,
I don't really want
and go food shopping.
Yes. You do the errands, pay the bills.
Yeah, so we all need a wife, right? But I do think that
I'll do the gardening.
I do think so that religion starts out that way, and it's good for the guys on top. But then the guys coming up, well, there's no wives for them. If you've got 70 wives, you've taken up all the wives. What am I going to have?
Can the wives have more than one husband?
No.
Wow.
They just have other wives.
Yeah, and they're probably just disgusting old men, too.
Well, I just imagine.
Like, do you really want that as an offspring?
I just imagine he thinks like he's fantastic.
Yes.
He just thinks
money and power.
And so he's thinking like, I'm keeping all these women satisfied, and they're probably just all lesbians. You know, like doing whatever they need to do, and then he shows up, and they're like, all right, let him bang me. We're gonna go over here now.
Passing that LSD around. Like, all right.
All right, let's do this. I only have to do this once every 70 days.
Right.
Right.
So they probably have like a matriarch that like doses out, like, you know, make you go comatose so you don't remember the, you know, interaction and
So it's going to be a weird show
Spikes of
today
drinks.
just because I've been deep diving into cults. It's going to be a very weird show, guys, today. because I think about the reality of it. Like I think of my everyday real life, right? And then I think about how, because I think there's cults everywhere.
I do too.
I think there's
I think
political affiliation can be a cult. I think self-help can be a cult. I think anyone who has got a set of rules, and then there's a hierarchy, and then people need to do certain things to remain in there, and you can't question, like, you can't, what I don't like about that is I can't have any opinions that are outside this dogma.
Yeah.
And it's like, what? I have an open mind, a free mind. I don't want, I can agree with 70 of the things, but I'm not going to agree with 30%.
Will and your free mind does not align with
cults.
And so I think that's why I think we're all, it could be easy targets if we're in an emotional space.
Yes.
Like if you're really down on it and somebody's coming to love on you, and that's usually how they get your attention.
Oh, yeah.
Is we're going to meet a need.
They always make you feel
Yes.
special.
They're going to fill a deficit that you are wanting or needing in your life. And then it's, I want to say prey. Like
Yeah,
they prey
predatory.
on that to get you to go where you want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I
and,
think at some point, don't you just wake up and be like, no, this isn't working.
like, I think well, I think, right. I think that happens. And then you can't leave because now you know all the secrets in here and you can't go out and be disenchanted with us. And I think that's where the violence starts up, is because, well, you're not leaving.
So what is the definition, the actual definition of a cult? Because what is it difference between a cult or a group?
Poisoning yourself at the end.
True. Well, that's not going to happen.
I don't know where my phone went. You have to look up the definition of a cult. But what I do think is, I think we're all susceptible, even though we believe we're not. And I believe that any conditions can arise that would make you part of a group. And
So it says a cult is typically defined as a social group characterized by intense devotion to a leader, ideology, or belief system, often to the exclusion of external influences, and can involve manipulative tactics to maintain control and cohesiveness. It's a Democratic Party right there. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't say that.
You cannot.
It was Linda.
You can have no, and that's. I think we have to have an alter ego whenever we're
But
going to
you know,
say
Republicans
something.
are like that too. So
Yeah.
I was just being funny. But
Yeah, no, but that's part of being a cult, right? You can have no dissenting opinions. And that's the if-then statement, that's
Yeah.
illogical. So when I run through things, because I'm trying to have my own thoughts,
yes,
and there's
it
so
doesn't
many.
work well with a cult.
Yeah, definitely. But also we are fed so much stuff that I have to wonder, do I really believe this, or is this something I just heard? There's a great comedian
Yeah.
called Bent Washington, Bengt. Well, if you look up his first name, it's unique enough. He pops up.
Yeah.
If you put his first name in comedian, and he talks about how easy it is to believe nonsense. You just have to hear it 3 times. So he talks about, he heard you eat 8 spiders a night, and he's like, "Don't be ridiculous. There's not even 8 spiders in my house." And then somewhere else it happens, and then somewhere else, and then he hears something else that you eat 25 mosquito, and he says, "No wonder why the spiders are going down there, because I eat 8 spiders a night." Like, you only have to hear something a couple of times before it registers in your brain is true, even if it's not true.
Yes,
It's the
yes.
repetition.
Yes.
And I think that's what advertising
Well,
does.
that's all marketing does. You know, they have this whole thing about like the symbol of McDonald's, Target. You know, it's cementing it into your brain. And you know, I didn't even Arby's. Arby's is for like RB, roast beef.
Oh, RB.
Yeah,
Interesting.
they say it. They spell the letters.
Yeah. Yeah, Arby's roast beef.
Yeah.
Right.
but it's spelled ARBY. So it's like, see, they do the play on words, and there's like a whole ton of them about how it's highly suggestive to us, and it's in front of our face all the time.
And that's what I think about the suggestibility.
The golden arches, it's like they're French fries.
When I watched this awesome gentleman, he's a human behaviorist. His name is Chase Hughes, and he talks about that in advertising, and he talks about that in the social media algorithm. It takes you up in this high and brings you down, and you'll always get an ad at the bottom of the, like when you're starting to lose. And he said he doesn't think that it was programmed originally that way, but that the algorithm learned that's where we get the most sales, is when you don't feel good. That's when we're going to get the most followers of a cult, when you're a little down, when you have when you have a need to be filled. And the problem is, human beings have needs to be filled all of the time.
Yes. Yes.
So apparently we're always susceptible.
And I feel like we're always looking for an outside source
Yes.
to fill that need.
Yes.
I think that's what I think.
So,
But I also think that, the algorithm, it's funny, we were talking the other night about commercials. Because like Hulu or, they'll do like, this ad is sponsored and you only have you have 3 minutes of ad and then you don't have the rest of the show. And it's all filled with all this garbage. And I was like, man, it takes me back like, wow, we really haven't watched a platform that does commercials. And now we're like on Kill Tony, or like Netflix, I think, does it. Hulu does it. I don't know who else does it. But I think there's ads on every platform. But it's just like the news, being suggestive. There's
you have to pay a higher fee to get no ads.
Yes. Yeah.
So you can buy some platforms without the ads.
But they used to talk about, do you remember the baby in the crib on E-Trader? Oh my God, we'll have to play some of those. They are so funny. But years ago, they used to have some really great commercials. Like sometimes other than
we
the
would
Super
watch
Bowl,
the Super Bowl for commercials, actually.
Yes. But besides the Super Bowl, there were we'll have to Google the E-Trade baby, because those are probably one of the best commercials. And every once in a while there's one hit or miss now, but now they feel like they've got you targeted, so we're just going to throw it. We don't even have to be creative in our commercial.
You know what I think it is?
We're just going to.
I think they've lost what actually makes people function. I think the marketing team got so bombarded with having to try to create content across a million things that they even lost demographics. Because sometimes something comes up and I'll say, does the so-and-so company know they're advertising on the motorcycle page? Like, that is not the correct, advertising a tampon.
See, I think they don't
I'm
care
positive.
anymore. They're just going to put it out there. They just
there are women riders.
Yeah,
yes. There are women riders, but statistically, men are not deciding what tampons women buy. They don't need to be on a motorcycle channel, because primarily, if you look at the demographics of motorcycles, as much as we love being on the back and all of that other stuff, we're also probably not watching 18 hours a week of videos of motorcycles.
Right.
So again, wrong demographic. And I think what they did is they confused it so you would spend more money and your money would be less effective, so you would continue to spend more money.
Or we just throw you annoying ads, so then you pay for the up service to not have ads.
Maybe.
Because I feel like commercials are crap. They don't care, and they
You know what
don't
commercial I
care
used to
where
love?
they what.
You're turning into your parents.
Oh my God, yes, that's Progressive.
Yes. So I will watch those ads because I love those ads.
Yes, but so that's why I said there's so few and far between good commercials that are like, oh yeah, I didn't mind, my
Chaos, the guy Chaos who's in
30,
who does
60.
Again, their car insurance commercials are probably the best commercials, but Chaos, Mayhem, Mr. Mayhem.
Yes.
And he just drives around on a bike and he's got a Band-Aid on his cheek and he's causing mayhem in the neighborhood.
Yes,
I do like his commercials too.
Yes. Yeah, it's just there's a handful of them, but for the most part, what you're watching is just garbage.
Oh,
and
definitely.
In pharmaceuticals.
So there's
pharmaceutical
There's
ads.
sometimes I will say, what is this an ad for? Is it an ad for a car? Is it an ad for a dance company?
Yeah.
Like what's happening in this ad?
And then they just do the logo, and then it disappears.
And then you're like,
logo.
well, what? And I think pharmaceutical companies if you have the volume off, you won't know what's happening.
Right.
But
Everybody's smiling and happy
and dancing, and they're always living this
Yes.
amazing life that nobody
I don't
lives.
have to wear my diaper anymore. I got rid of my, you know.
I'm no longer incontinent.
You cured my IBS.
I can leave the house.
Yes. Yes, if you just mute it, you can make up your own commercials, and that's the way you entertain yourself.
So do you think one of the things to be more to not be so susceptible, to have your guard up, do you think it's to be suspicious all the time? Do you think it's to believe in yourself? Do you think it's to not need external validation?
I think you need to ask yourself questions. Like, if you find it resonating with you, or if you find, and I think that you should run maybe not everything, but I think that you should run things like that through a process. Why am I drawn to this? Does this benefit me? Am I in alignment with it? How does this make me feel?
Who are these people? What do they want?
Why do I think it's just ask yourself better questions.
Yeah.
But I think ultimately it comes down to knowing you. You have to know who you are, why are you leaning into these things? Why does it feel good? Or why did it harm me? Why did that make me pull back? It's not the right thing for me. So I don't know. I feel like I use my gut in situations like that. Because I feel like I'm highly suggestible.
Well, I think we all are, but we all won't admit it.
Yeah.
After watching that Chase Hughes podcast, we all are susceptible because we have a mammalian brain.
Well, and people just wear you down, but wearing you down is they're just constantly reiterating, planting that seed. Like you said, like the bugs, the three times.
Yes.
You just keep putting it in there subtly, something in there. It's just like years ago, it was Dateline or 2020. They were doing these interviews about how children are susceptible and how you shouldn't ask leading questions to children because they want to please you. And they also don't understand like the true concept of a conversation and dialogue. So a lot of times they will give you the answer.
And they're imaginative, so they don't necessarily understand lies as much, maybe. Because they're imaginative. They're,
yes.
the floor
and
is lava. The floor is
also
lava.
Don't know that they're doing it, but they're trying to give you the answer that you want to hear. So they did this example of this lady was in a room with these two kids, and she's like, tell me about that fire that you had at your house last night. And they didn't have a fire. We didn't have a fire at our house. There's no fire. Mommy, Daddy put they denied it. And she's like, but you sure? Are you sure you didn't feel like there wasn't heat? Or like she kept just suggesting, are you sure? And it's like, I think you make them second guess them. Well, maybe I did. But now they don't want to be wrong. And they still want to please you, and they still want to be a part of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're asking leading questions. Then the next thing you know, the kids are telling the story about they were in the closet, and the door was getting hot. She's like, you didn't feel the door? It wasn't getting hot? And it was a hard time coughing? Like, they just kept asking all these leading questions.
Well, that's part of and I get into this, and I told... I said, I don't like when we argue this way because you make me say 3 things that are true, and then you say the 4th thing that's incorrect. And you've walked me into, because I said 3 and agreed 3 times that the 4th time is going to be correct when the 4th time is distinctly wrong. I hate leading things like that. Like some salespeople do that. I'm sure it's a timeshare technique.
Yeah.
You love your family.
Yes.
Yes, I love my family. You want to take them on beautiful trips. Yes, I want to take them on beautiful trips. You want your family to have great memories.
And you
want this timeshare.
You want something to pass on to your family forever.
You want this to live on as a legacy. Yes.
Yes. And there's no
No.
Yes.
Say no in there.
And
They're going to
you
know.
can go to all these. Oh, my God. We got sucked into the timeshare thing. We ended up being at a bad resort in Mexico. So in order to get off of the resort, it happened to be at the time where, when we first checked in, the lady at the front desk said, there's seaweed out in the ocean right now. And she said, and they're clearing it up. It's just a freak thing. So I'm like, okay, that's not a big deal. Literally, there's 3 dump trucks in those, is it a backhoe?
Mm-hmm.
They are scooping out all the seaweed, like all day. And it just keeps coming in all week. and it smells. You know how
Yeah.
the sea smells at low tide and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So there's no place to swim. It is literally like they're scooping it out. You barely see a hole of water before it all disappears again. And so Chris is like, yeah, let's go try this. We'll do this. You could get 3 excursions if you go and do the 90-minute thing. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Let's do it. We'll go get breakfast. It was a beautiful
And then you have
resort.
a conversation in advance. We're not buying this thing.
Yes.
Right? You're both on board. You're both strong.
And yes, and I've already done 2 of these timeshare things. And I don't know if he had done any at that point. But the guy starts out and the price is like $186,000. And you can travel the world because they've got sister things and you don't have to give up your week. And, they're throwing all these goodies at you. And I'm like, we're good. So after our 90-minute presentation there, we were over there for almost 2 more hours. And I kept saying, no. Chris, I think it's like a deal. You could buy that right now. And I'm like, nope, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. And this also had its own private little pool.
Right. And they've dropped it from $186,000 to $8,000.
Yeah, 32. It was like $34,000. And I just said,
If you were there another hour,
And
it
I
would have been
said-
8.
right. And I'm like, so let's just cut to the chase. You started at 186. We're down to 32. If I write you a check for 8 or
Yeah.
10 or whatever it was, I said, how low will you actually go? And I said, because look at all that. If that's you making all that profit, how many of these people in here, and they ring the bell.
Oh,
And
yes.
They ring the bell and they make this big thing and everybody stops and everybody's clapping and congratulations. And, it's this whole big spiel. And I'm like, man, what did they buy it for? Did they just buy it for 186?
Or 56.
Yeah, and this guy's trying to sell it to me for 39, 32 or whatever it was. Like, no.
So you left unscathed?
And Chris is like, "What? I think we should do it. And I said, I have a headache. And I went out and got up and walked out. And I said, I need some ibuprofen. Chris comes out and he's like, just come back in and sit down. Let's see how low they're going to go. And I'm like, no means no. So he's all grumbling and fussing. And once we got away from it, and I think he got out of that whole energy, he was like, okay,
Yeah.
all right, that makes sense.
I feel like salespeople, I'm a salesperson, so I feel for the sale pitch. There's the part of me that is empathetic to the sales
Yeah,
pitch.
Chris
I know
like
you
that
got
too.
something to sell. I get it. But I did buy a furniture timeshare equivalent.
What?
I know.
A furniture timeshare?
Yeah, so they brought you into this place and there was furniture everywhere. And they said, this piece of furniture costs $10,000. But if you're part of the club, it only costs $2,000. You just have to buy so many pieces of furniture. And I'm like, well, buying a house, I'm going to fill furniture anyways. So I want the $10,000 piece of furniture for $2,000, because
Yeah.
I had been furniture shopping. I knew what furniture was costing.
Right.
And so I sign for it and I come back and it says after you have 72 hours to review it and you need to call and figure out what that
Yeah.
paperwork is on the back and cancel that immediately. And I'm like, isn't this a good thing? We need furniture. And he's like, absolutely not. It's not a good thing. This is timeshare. And I'm like, the furniture's timeshare? He's like, the furniture's timeshare. Anything could be a timeshare.
Well, we did do one.
Anything is that.
We did do one. We were newly married. So we were like in our, I was 23, 24. Somewhere we had a timeshare up north. I don't know if it was at Loon or it was one of the ski mountains. And it was, you got two free ski weekends and a satellite dish. And he's like, I'm
in.
Yes.
I'm in.
And we did do it, but we didn't buy the timeshare. He was already like a hard no. No, we're not doing that. So we did, we went skiing twice, stayed at a great place, and then we got our satellite. But we did it for the satellite dish.
Yeah.
Or it was Dish Network or whatever. It was the
Yes.
smaller one. And, we just built our house.
Yeah.
Like, no.
Yeah, and I believe that we have needs and wants. And one of the things that they were saying is there are 6 types of things that everyone falls into. So somebody needs to feel significant. Someone needs to have approval. There's something. And once they figure out your tell, they just play to that one thing.
Yes.
And so you just have to be able to read people better.
Yeah.
And when I think of the people who go to cults, I think of the ones that start out somewhat religious, like the Jones cult was somewhat religious, and the
Yeah, I don't remember all.
and David Koresh thought he was the second Jesus Christ. He was the coming of Jesus, so he had a religious component. But they all have some kind of spirituality, consciousness. In this particular one, the Rajneeshis that I watched, what was so annoying about that cult was that when the documentary started, he had stopped speaking. He went silent. So I come to the documentary, and the guru that everyone is like crying when they see him because they're like, he's so beautiful.
Right.
He's so amazing. He's so wonderful. He's not speaking. How can he have a hold over you when he's ignoring you and
Right.
refusing conversation from
Right.
you?
Well, manipulation.
Manipulation.
If he's been nurturing you and,
Yes.
filling you with all these good
But the
things.
new people
yeah.
who are coming, you've never even heard him speak. So one of the things we were going back and forth with was, why are they following this guy? This guy hasn't said anything. 4 episodes into this documentary, this dude's said nothing. He comes out with his hands folded, and he's got that smile on his face because he's been humping all the ladies in the back silently,
I wonder what their Viagra bill is.
Well, this was in the 80s. There wasn't
Oh, yeah.
Viagra then. But there was a pretty young cult, I would say. Because I was like, look at all these people. There's no 70-year-olds in there. But one of the things I thought was pretty interesting about that is one of the books talked about like, having sex to have better consciousness. Because I was like, what is the point of this cult? He hasn't said anything. They're following him all over creation, giving him millions and millions
It's like
and
the
millions
80s
of dollars.
version of mushrooms.
Yes. Yes, psychedelics. And that's one reason why when people say, "Oh, don't you want to open your mind to consciousness?" I don't know. I'm so terrified of being made like the Manchurian Candidate that you're going to get in my brain and now you say cinnamon and I leave my kitchen and I go kill people. I'm so afraid of that that I will never be hypnotized. Like my grandmother and my grandfather were hypnotized. My grandfather was hypnotized to stop smoking. He stopped smoking.
That's awesome.
My grandmother had hip problems, so they said you have to lose 50 pounds before we do this hip surgery. She got hypnotized like 3 or 4 months. She lost all the weight.
Wow.
And I was like, no one
So
would be able
I think that you have to be open to it. So I think you have to be open to hypnosis. You have to allow what's going to happen because I think that you can, because I thought about doing hypnosis once and I was like, I don't know. You don't really know that person.
You don't know that
Like-
person, and I would want, if it had to be happen, say we're going to hypnotize you and you're going to have something that I really was like, I want and I can't get on my own. Say
Yeah.
I'm going to agree. I would need my team of people
Yes, to say.
watching the person
Yes.
and being like, be on guard for saying something and all of a sudden I'm a
Yes.
different person. I don't want
But
someone
could you
flipping a
really?
switch.
So even if you knew all your people were in the room watching over it, could you shut that part of your conscious brain down to allow? Because would you be sitting there and thinking like, okay, well, what if? What if they said it and he didn't hear it? Or what if? Or, so even though you've put these measures in place to allow, like, I don't know. I think I have a very strong brain.
I'm pretty anti-authority and I won't listen, so
Yes.
I think I have that part of myself that
So-
just is not going to listen,
Even when
when it's good for me.
yes, there's always, I know, I'm aware of
I'm
there
stubborn.
is resistance in me.
And
It's just like our TED Talk class. The minute she says homework, I don't want to do it.
call it something else.
I know. I was talking to Amy about it the other day, and I was like, she's like, I know, right? And I'm like, life just gets busy, but then
And I'm an adult. I'm
now-
an adult.
well,
I don't want
it's
homework
like-
as an adult.
Yes, it was like going back to. It was like having to do summer reading.
It was also
We
like
used to
chore.
read all summer, and now they've given you these books, and it's like I automatically don't want to do it.
And just why don't you just say, here's another chore for you this
Yes.
week.
Yes, just
Ready?
pile it on.
Get used to that
I
sound.
want to know where that boat is. That looks like
We're watching on the,
Fort Lauderdale
it looks somewhere warm because everyone is currently tan and half naked.
in boats.
In
party.
boats.
There's party barges. There's like
And there's
3 pontoons floating by.
palm trees, so you know that's not here.
Well, that one's a fake one right there.
No, look
oh
at
yeah,
those
the
over
ones in
there.
the background. It actually looks like when you're going down the intercoastal from like Fort Lauderdale, they have those little bars. There's a place that.
It's very distracting.
Oh my God, I know because I keep looking up that and I was like, is that Les Tub? So there was a dive bar that Dr. Bob took us to when we were down there. You pull up by the boat, you get out on a dock like that, and they've got these little tiny booths all along the little two-seaters, like little nooks, and they've got the old the lanterns hanging on the poles. But outside in the front, it's called Le Tub. It's got one of those big old cast iron tubs, and it's all dirty as hell, and there's stuff coming out of it, and it's greasy.
Alphabet
There's
soup of
a pool
herpes.
table in there, and you don't want to use the bathroom. The door probably doesn't shut, and it's never been cleaned because it's 80 years of grease and grime fingerprints on the white paint. But it was a great drinks. You just stay outside, pee off the boat, still go to the bathroom.
Yeah, there was a woman, I was talking to something, and she was rubbing hand sanitizer all over herself. And I said, there's a bathroom 15 feet from you. She goes, no, this is good. I'm like, actually, it's not. You should wash your hands. If you were that vigorously trying to get alcohol to evaporate whatever you touch that is making you
Right.
Do that in that kind of fashion, you should wash your hands with soap and water in the bathroom.
She was prepping for surgery.
With hand sanitizer. You know why they don't use hand sanitizer in surgery? Because you need to wash your hands.
I know. I don't use the air blower. I will drip dry my hands. I'll wipe them on my
I
bum.
don't have the patience for that.
But that hot air is blowing down at the floor, and all that floor goo is coming right back on your hands.
I didn't even think of that.
Ugh. And it also kills me when you see people put their purse on the floor, at a restaurant or they somewhere. And I'm even in the bathroom stall, sometimes you see their stuff is. Funny story. We always take our shoes off as soon as you walk in the house. We always walk in. Chris would walk around, and we were dating. He'd come over, and he would sit down on the coffee table and put his feet with his shoes on top of the coffee table. And I'm like, dude, we do movie night there. We eat off of that. And he's like, will you clean it? And I'm like, so every time he would take it off, and he's like, I'll never do it again. I'm sorry. Do it. So I sent him this article about how 66% of all germs come in from the bottoms of your soles. And
He's like, okay.
he fell asleep, and I took a picture of his feet with his shoes on the coffee table, and sent the article and text message. We're in the same room. He's like, you're an asshole. I know. But to this day,
He does not put his shoes on the
he
coffee
does not
table.
put shoes on the coffee table.
And sometimes we have information differently. Sometimes we can hear information. But if we're anti-authority and we don't want to join a cult, maybe we're going to have to read that information.
Well, what would our cult look like? What would we do in our cult?
Have a good time.
Rollerblade, go to the beach,
Have fun.
We'd probably, I don't want to
Comedy.
Yes. Comedy, shopping, good food,
Really good food.
beach, exercise.
But I also think there'd be skiing in there and
Well, I was just thinking summer
snowmobile.
activities. Yes,
Yeah.
but you'd have an activity.
Reading.
So
Reading, writing.
it'd be like a club.
Yeah. More and you could have your own opinion.
Yes.
That
Because
would
I
be-
don't think that we would do. I don't care about your religion,
and the other thing is,
and I don't care about your politics. Just
I'm
be
not
nice.
policing your rules.
Right.
I don't even want I don't like being
Right.
policed. I don't like being.
So what I think I hear us saying is we're going to bring back the
parented.
hippies, fashionable hippies.
No.
So I don't like the word hippie, but bohemian.
Maybe
Maybe I like bohemian.
you like bohemian. It's funny because I think, okay, if someone's giving me, we're buying real estate with it. All the
Yes.
money that you're
Yes.
donating, we're buying
Yes.
real estate with
Yes.
it. We'll give you back a percentage.
Yes.
You can vacation there.
Yes. Oh, I like that. We'll start selling timeshares.
Oh, not
To pay for
timeshare,
a
not
cult.
timeshare. I know it can't.
Well, Airbnb. Airbnb a week.
Okay.
That's a better
Okay.
timeshare. I don't want you there.
Yeah, I don't. The timeshare just gives me hives. I get a little bit of a hive on the timeshare. But I think it was really funny because as that show was on, I'm like, this dude hasn't spoken. He doesn't speak into the last episode
No.
but he's kind of like the mob where he assigns. It's called a secretary, but she's the most powerful person, Ma Sheila. And he tells her everything behind closed doors. No one knows if she's saying what he's saying.
Is her real name Sheila?
No.
Oh, I thought he was
Everyone
putting
had-
it's my Sheila, and saying it all word.
Yeah. No.
It's kind of French.
Ma is like the ma.
Oh.
So I feel like we were dropped into the story when the story already happened, and I wanted to know what was his message that people followed him onto multiple continents. What is his message that he has $250 million and enough money to not only buy land but build a compound on it? And the reason why the town got so when at first it was like, this is going to be a ranch. The reason why the 50 townspeople actually start fighting with them is they come in and they build a town, little A-frames. Everyone's living there, hundreds and hundreds of people there. They're all wearing orange. Okay, that's how you distinguish them.
Why'd they pick orange? It's like prison.
Yeah, that's actually really funny. It is like prison.
Why would you pick orange?
Must
Are
be
you all orange? Like
all orange?
top, bottom, everything?
Everything's orange.
Ugh.
They have shops with nothing but orange outfits in them. The lawyers wear orange
Oh
as
my
they go to court.
I've got to look this up.
Yeah,
because
you do have to
Who
watch
picked
it.
orange?
I
What
know.
a terrible color. If you had to wear one color for the rest of your life, what would it be? What color would it be?
Blue.
Yeah, mine would be blue.
You know, because you can wear jeans.
Yeah. Jeans and denim tops.
Yes.
You do denim on denim.
With a denim jacket, you could do the Canadian tuxedo.
I love it.
But
I love it.
so what they do is they're just a ranch. So the ranchers are like, these idiots,
Yeah.
look at these people. But then they start bringing manufacturing and they want to make their own stuff. And, because they have almost however many, 800 people or whatever living there. They gotta make their clothes. They've got to make their food. So they start doing manufacturing in the town next door to them called Antelope. Says, look, this is ranch land. You bought that as a ranch. You are not bringing in through our little
Right.
town, Main Street, enough equipment and supplies to build a manufacturing plant or other.
Right.
And because
Oh, is
of-
that why they wanted to kill the attorney general?
that's why it gets so big from there. They heard no once. And
Yeah.
the nuclear explosion of no to people who you're only love and you're only wonderful and everything's only great.
But I guess I could see a draw for once you join a cult, you don't
I
have to
can't.
work outside of it. So if there's people who don't want to make a living, make money,
But you have to work in it.
well, you have to work in it. But I mean, what if you
So guess what? Those toilets need to be
What if
cleaned.
you get mail duty and you just have to walk to the mailbox every day? Come on, that's a trade-off, right?
What if you get toilet duty?
Well,
You get 800 Harry, whatever they.
yeah. What if you're in
Ronnie
Greece and you
cheese.
gotta do everybody's
What if you're?
dirty paper towel?
They're all
toilet
having
paper.
sex everywhere. What if you're the
Yeah.
cleaner?
I'd be like, ugh. I was gonna say something. I'm like, no, that's probably inappropriate.
Yeah, I'm like we're still
Yeah.
technically on the radio.
Yes. I did forget.
Technically.
Yes, I forget. Forget about it. I'm going to keep it PG.
Yeah.
Keep
So
it
I was mesmerized by that show. Then I sort of deep dive into cults, and I've read about.
So what
Jones.
happened to them? What happened to the...
Very dramatic story. They deport him for
Where did they deport him to? Because
back to India.
But I thought he got kicked out of India.
So the thing is,
Is that why? Did he get kicked out
That's
because
what I
he
don't
was
like
running
about
from
the
the law?
I believe so. I think there was some kind of tax evasion, is what I think it was. And that's what I didn't like about the documentary is they dropped these nuggets, and I'm like, okay, why was he? I
Right.
want more information, but we're telling a different story. We're telling the Oregon story, right? And there were
Right.
so many other parts to the story I wanted.
Yeah.
And so he gets kicked out, and Ma Sheila is claiming again for 5.5 episodes. We never hear from this guy. So I'm like, what is this guy even all about? And people are losing their mind when they see him.
Obsessed, losing
Like,
their mind?
yes.
You just walked into, the best concert of your life, and
Yes.
Bon Jovi walks out on stage.
Yeah, you take your favorite movie star, concert goer, and add Jesus on top of it.
Yes.
Or whatever your, the Buddha, whatever
Yeah.
your thing is. And they see him and they're mesmerized and they're just like the tears of joy. And you're like, this guy hasn't said 2 words.
I wonder how many people then walk away and feeling like, so you buy in, you hear from it, you hear about this, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go there. Especially as a young teenager. I can think about situations where a teenager, young adult, where you have there's been so much hype about this, and then you get there and you experience it, and you're going through all the emotions, and you're like, yay, you're at the concert, and you're, oh my God, I'm in it. But the back of your mind is like, yeah, this isn't what I thought it would be.
Right.
But you go along anyway.
Yes. So I think that's what ends up happening in so many of these things is the part of you that wants to dissent,
You can only
you're
pretend
surrounded
to be
by
all in.
you're surrounded by 500 people who are all in.
Yeah.
You can't be the one half in
Right.
person.
And so then you're like, oh yeah, so that now I got to manufacture my tears, and I get to do my, bow before your dirty feet.
Yeah.
and-
I remember
Ew.
going. Don't even with
If
the
you
dirty
had
feet.
to clip toenails, that was your job, man.
The,
I'd quit. I'd burn it to
the
the ground.
Bagwa's toenails. You got to go in there. Someone should have clipped his
I'll get
beard.
some
His
clippers down at
beard.
the DG.
His beard was like to his knees.
Ugh.
But yeah. So, and it's so funny. I didn't
God,
even
he
like.
could probably go naked and look like a troll. He'd cover all his parts. Does it come down to a point?
But the funny thing about him was he had 90 Rolexes. He had 20 Rolls Royces. So he
Oh
would
my
come
God.
out and drive his Rolls Royce, and I'm like, everyone has sacrificed.
Where would he go?
Just up and down the commune.
Oh, gee. Wow.
You've got to watch that
They
series.
definitely keep those. Man, I'd like to pick up one of those rolls, man. That they would be low miles.
Right. It's right.
They probably don't have sex in the back of it either, so it's got to be fairly
Hopefully.
clean.
Hopefully.
He's got his harem over there. He's probably got like some,
Oh.
Yeah,
It was interesting because look through history, cults are a common thing.
Yeah.
And that's why I said, do you think certain things are cults today? Like sometimes I'm watching Instagram, and Instagram has a way of telling you you're never quite doing enough.
Yes.
You're not enough, and you're not doing enough.
Publish 5 more posts. You want more visibility? Yeah.
And I don't have a real opinion about Facebook because every time I get on there, it's always sending me some political type thing that upsets me. So
I'm down on Facebook.
I'm never on there long enough to figure out what their thing is. But when I first joined Instagram, it was pretty pictures,
Yeah.
and then ads took over and
Oh my God,
ruined
everything is
ruined
and
Instagram.
everything is sponsored. You think that you see like a post and I read it, and then I was like, this is not who I'm following. It's a sponsor. And then you keep rolling, and it's sponsor, and then I think if you like it, you automatically it starts coming up again, and I'm like, so now I have to be really careful about making sure that it's not a sponsor and somebody that I'm actually following,
right.
because then you just get. I block a lot of them.
I try to keep blocking them, but they keep.
Stop.
It's a never-ending tide.
Harass.
It's never-ending.
Find
tide.
another way to get my money.
So
That one didn't work.
Yeah, that one didn't work. You were listening to Lisa and Robin on the mic on WSMN, 1590 AM, 95.3 FM. You can always watch and stream on WSMN.live as well as YouTube and Spotify. We are your happiest 2 hours of the week every Thursday
Yes.
between 10 and noon. And we're going
You
to go to
do
the top
that
of the
so
hour.
well. You
Do
don't.
it?
Yes. She does not read that. She just spits that right out so beautifully and so perfect.
So stay tuned.
Nashua. Listen, watch, and stream at WSMN.live.